Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. You're watching the news with your host Kriti Mishra. In next 30 minutes, I'll take you through news from around the world. First up, the headlines this Saturday evening. Russia attacks Ukraine with cruise missiles. President Zelensky refuses to leave Ukraine. Air India plane leaves Bucharest with 250 Indians. Indian embassy in Ukraine advises Indians not to head to border without informing it. Cabinet meeting decides 1,600 crore rupees will be spent on Ayushman Bharat digital mission. E-auction window for coal companies also approved. Government committed to providing treatment facilities at block level through modern technology, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Fifth phase of voting in Uttar Pradesh tomorrow. Campaigning ends for the first round of elections in Manipur. Let's go on to our flash news segment first. Prime Minister Modi to address Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio tomorrow. At Tejpur University convocation, President Ramnath Kovind asked university students to engage with rural population. Indian Air Force will not deploy aircraft in multilateral air exercise in UK in view of Ukraine tensions. India-Oman successfully conduct Eastern Brigade air exercise in Jodhpur. Nationwide vaccination drive crosses tally of over 177 crore 17 lakh vaccine doses. Heavy rain and massive hailstorm lashes national capital Delhi. Delhi will lift all COVID-19 restrictions from Monday. Former Odisha Chief Minister Hemanand Biswal passes away in Bhubaneswar. US President Joe Biden nominates Brown Jackson, the first African-American woman, to Supreme Court. And Nadal defeats Medvedev in 2 sets in Mexico. First news from Ukraine and Russia conflict. The Russian army has targeted Ukraine's military infrastructure with cruise missiles from the air and sea, its defense ministry said on Saturday. The Ukrainian health minister says that 198 people have been killed and more than 1,000 have been wounded in the Russian offensive.
Sirens are now commonplace in the once peaceful city of Kyiv. The Russian attacks from the sky are hitting residential and defense establishments alike. With no help from anywhere, the Ukrainian president is boosting the morale of his army.
Всім доброго ранку, українці.
In a recorded message, Zelensky asserted that surrender is not an option for his country.
Складати зброю, нашу армію і йде евакуація.
On Friday, he appealed to Putin to stop the war and start talks. The Russian reply was cold and cited the examples of failed discussions. However, emotions ran high on the Hungary border. War-torn Ukrainians crossed the border on bicycles and foot with their belongings. Some lucky ones boarded trains. Over 10,600 Ukrainians are sheltering in Romania. That says the influx of refugees has gone up by 120%. With Europe still in the grip of harsh winter, their conditions are expected to worsen.
Humanitarian needs are multiplying and spreading by the hour. Civilians are dying. At least 100,000 Ukrainians have already reportedly fled their homes, with many crossing into neighboring countries.
The Russian troops are very close to Kyiv. Time is running out for Zelensky and for the rest of the world. The hope, as the UN General Secretary says, will be
soldiers need to return to their barracks. Leaders need to turn to the paths of dialogue and peace.
Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And India did not vote on a UN Security Council resolution that condemns Russia's aggressive behavior and demands immediate and unconditional withdrawal of forces from Ukraine. India reiterated that dialogue was the only way to resolve differences. Representing India on the vote, India's permanent representative to the UN, T.S. Tirumurthy, said India appeals that all efforts should be towards an immediate end to violence and war.
We are also deeply concerned about the welfare and security of the Indian community, including a large number of Indian students in Ukraine. Dialogue is the only answer to settling differences and disputes, however daunting that may appear at this moment. It is a matter of regret that the path of diplomacy was given up. We must return to it. For all these reasons, India has chosen to abstain on this resolution.
Meanwhile, in an extraordinary step, the US imposed sanctions on Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The US Treasury Department held both directly responsible for the attack on Ukraine. The latest US sanctions are targeted at critical structures of Russia's financial system, including its biggest financial institutions. It is very rare to sanction the head of a country. The US has imposed sanctions on Russian Defense Minister and Chief of General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces and 11 members of the Russian Security Council as well.
Following a telephone conversation President Biden held with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and in alignment with the decision by our European allies, the United States will join them in sanctioning President Putin and Foreign Minister Lavrov and members of the Russian National Security Team. I expect we'll have more specific details out later this afternoon.
Meanwhile, the UNICEF is concerned that intensifying hostilities in Ukraine pose an immediate threat to the lives and well-being of country's 7.5 million children. In a statement, UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell said heavy weapons firing along the line of contact has already damaged critical water infrastructure and education facilities in recent days. She added that unless the fighting subsides, tens of thousands of families could be forcibly displaced, dramatically escalating humanitarian needs. UNICEF is working across eastern Ukraine to scale up life-saving programs for children. She called on all parties to refrain from attacking essential infrastructure on which children depend, including water and sanitation systems, health facilities, schools as well. The Foreign Ministry is asking Indian nationals in Ukraine to exercise caution and not attempt to reach border posts without informing its officials. The Indian Embassy in Ukraine issued a fresh advisory in the wake of the Russian attack on several cities and fierce fighting around the capital city, Kyiv. The embassy has told citizens in the eastern part of Ukraine to stay indoors at their current places of residence. It advised them not to approach any border post without coordinating with the Indian officials at border posts. The embassy assured that they are working with embassies in neighbouring countries to evacuate Indians. An Air India plane is bringing 250 Indians from Bucharest to Mumbai. It will be Air India's first flight bringing home evacuees from Ukraine. The Indians reached the Ukraine-Romania border by road and were taken to Bucharest to board the Air India flight AI 1944. Another flight, AI 1942, is bringing 250 more Indians to return to Delhi on Sunday. Ukrainian authorities closed their country's airspace for passenger planes. Flights bringing Indians home are coming from Bucharest and Budapest. And moving on, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla started a helpline at his residence office in New Delhi and camp office in Kota Bundi parliamentary constituency to help Indian students trapped in Ukraine after the Russian invasion. More than 125 students and parents from 15 states have contacted the helpline. The students are from states like Rajasthan, Bengal, Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Haryana, Punjab and Bihar. The Speaker's office has also appealed to the students to maintain restraint and patience and take shelter in safe places and help each other through the helpline. And dozens of relatives and friends of Indian students stranded in Ukraine held a demonstration near the Russian embassy in New Delhi, demanding the students' immediate evacuation.
Stand with Ukraine! Stand with Ukraine!
Demonstrators in New Delhi holding a protest outside the Russian embassy.
हमारे पास खाना है कुछ नहीं है उनके पास
बेटा खाने को कुछ मिला आप लोगों को कल से कुछ नहीं खाया बच्चों ने
हुए हैं और कोई सरकार से हमें सहायता नहीं मिल रही है वहाँ
ये खागे में इनका बेटा
A parent showing mobile phone to cameras talking to his son via video call.
खाली ये एडवाइजरी जारी हो रही है कि हमने इतने प्लेन भेज दिए रोमानिया में, उनको 1500 किलोमीटर जाना है, कैसे जाएंगे?
Some of the demonstrators held video calls with friends and relatives stuck in subway stations and bomb shelters in Kyiv and Kharkiv. Pramod Gupta's daughter is studying in Kharkiv.
बच्चे बहुत बुरी तरह से डरे हुए हैं, बंकर में हैं, शेलिंग हो रही है तो वो बच्चे ढंग से बात भी नहीं कर पा रहे हैं हमसे.
Police barricaded the roads leading to the embassy on Friday and asked the protesters to meet Indian Foreign Ministry officials to discuss the repatriation of nearly 20,000 Indians, including students. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Now news from the poll-bound states. Uttar Pradesh will have its fifth phase for 61 seats in 12 districts on Sunday. Voting will be taking place from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 692 candidates are in the fray with about 2.24 crore people eligible to vote in this phase. After the polling on Sunday, voting would have concluded for 292 seats out of the 403 assembly seats in the state. The last two phases on 3rd and 7th March will cover 111 seats. The fifth phase polls will be held in Sultanpur, Chitrakoot, Pratapgarh, Kaushambi, Prayagraj, Barabanki, Ayodhya, Bahraich, Shravasti, Gonda, Amethi and Raebareli districts. Uttar Pradesh Deputy Chief Minister Keshav Prasad Maurya is a BJP candidate from Sirathu seat from Kaushambi. And campaigning ended for the first phase of Manipur Legislative Assembly elections. Polling will be held for 38 seats in 6 districts on Monday. Of these, 1 seat is reserved for scheduled castes and 8 seats for scheduled tribes. 173 candidates, including 15 women, are in the fray. 8 candidates are in the fray for the seats including Sekmai, Saikot and Saikul. Nambol and Thanga have a direct contest between the BJP and the Congress. And in more election news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with booth workers of 8 assembly constituencies in Varanasi on 27th of February. About 20,000 workers are expected to be involved in the interaction. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra said Uttar Pradesh is witnessing the politics of caste and religion for the last 30 years. She also accused the state government of being blind to atrocities against women in the state. BJP National President JP Nadda addressed a rally in Sant Kabir Nagar. He also addressed that BJP and NDA have the confidence to reveal their report card. He claimed that the BJP can change the picture and destiny of Uttar Pradesh. And taking a dig at the BJP, Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav told a rally in Balrampur that the only double engine that the party can boast of is corruption and inflation. He said GST had worsened the condition of traders and the lockdown worsened the condition of the labourers. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath addressed election rallies in Ambedkar Nagar and Balia. He hit out at the opposition party, especially the Samajwadi Party, saying a family-driven party can never do justice to Uttar Pradesh. Congress candidate from Pindra in Varanasi, Ajay Rai, was banned from electioneering for 24 hours on 26th of February by the Election Commission. Rai had allegedly made objectionable remarks against the Prime Minister and Yogi Adityanath. Union Minister Anurag Thakur said in Uttar Pradesh, the SP, Congress and the BSP did nothing for the poor. He said Gorakhpur had seen no aims in last 70 years, but the BJP government had built one in the city. And moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the post-union budget webinar of the Health Ministry on Saturday. He said work on 1.5 lakh health and wellness centres is progressing at a brisk pace and more than 85,000 centres are providing routine check-up, vaccination and tests. The Prime Minister also underscored the importance of remote healthcare and telemedicine in reducing the health access divide between urban and rural India.
हेल्थ केयर से जुड़े हमारे ऑब्जेक्टिव्स बायोटेक्नोलॉजी से जुड़ी रिसर्च, मेडिसिन्स और मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स में आत्मनिर्भरता के बिना हासिल नहीं हो सकते। हमने मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स और दवाओं के कच्चे माल के लिए PLI स्कीम शुरू की है।
And the National Health Authority will implement 1,600 crore scheme over the next 5 years. It will enable people to create Ayushman Bharat health account numbers that will link digital health records. The mission is aimed at improving equitable access to quality health care with technologies like telemedicine and health service portability. The pilot project was completed in the UTs of Ladakh, Chandigarh, Dadar Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Puducherry, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and also Lakshadweep. And Vice President Venkaiah Naidu asserted that inclusive, equitable and quality education is every child's right. His remarks came at the inauguration of a state-of-the-art indoor sports arena in Bengaluru. The Vice President called upon private schools to come up with policies to help underprivileged and needy children. He said schools must teach community service and instill the motivation to serve the society in children.
Other extracurricular activities are a must. The new education policy insists on this, and I urge upon all the state governments, education institutions, that they must give priority to sports, extracurricular activities, and also developing spiritual mind among the children.
And now news from states. Union Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia launched the National Polio Vaccination Campaign in Delhi. The Pan-India program will be held from 27th of February till 2nd of March. Mandavia said polio doses will be given to children up to 5 years of age. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi addressed the party's Chintan Shivir in Dwarka in Gujarat. He said while some Congress leaders are working on the ground, others are giving sermons sitting in AC rooms. In Odisha, the ruling Biju Janata Dal is leading in 249 Zilla Parishad seats, while the BJP is ahead in 32 seats. The Congress is leading in 13 seats. Counting of votes will continue for 3 days. Polling for these seats was held in 5 different phases starting 16th of February. Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai chaired a meeting with industry leaders ahead of the budget session in Bengaluru. He received suggestions from the industry. Karnataka Chief Minister Bommai will present the state's budget for 2022-23 on 4th of March. Former Odisha Chief Minister Hemanand Biswal passed away on Friday night. He was 82 years old. Biswal was undergoing treatment at a private hospital in Bhubaneswar. He was Chief Minister of the state twice in 1989 and 1999, and also the State Assembly member 6 times. In 2009, he was elected as a Lok Sabha MP from Sundargarh. Coming up on the other side, Wireless Technology Trade Fair. Mobile World Congress begins in Barcelona next week. Welcome back. Now a quick look at the news from around the world. After suffering a heavy blow due to the pandemic, Rio de Janeiro's carnival factories are getting back to work, preparing floats for competitive parades. An estimated 10,000 people work in these carnival factories. The 12 largest and richest samba groups hired between 300 and 500 workers each. Carnival designers are hiring again, but in smaller numbers than before. The pandemic forced the carnival to be cancelled last year. This year, the samba school parades will go ahead, but will be delayed by 2 months. Drug maker Johnson & Johnson and 3 major distributors have finalized a nationwide settlement over their role in the opioid addiction crisis. The announcement clears the way for $26 billion to flow to nearly every state and local government in the US. It's the largest settlement to date among the many opioid-related cases that have been playing out across the country and is expected to provide a significant boost to programs aimed at reversing the crisis in places that have been devastated by it. The money is to be delivered over 18 years and most of it must be used to fight the epidemic. Mexico has accepted just 150 cases of the 2,400 asylum requests from Haitians since the beginning of 2022. Haitians hope that the trend will be reversed and more applications will be accepted. Official records said in 2021, Haitian migrants accounted for 131,000 of asylum requests in Mexico. A vast majority were rejected. Many Haitians now residing in Mexico belong to a migration wave that left Brazil and Chile in 2021 when work opportunities all but stopped due to the COVID-19 pandemic. While they wait on a resolution on their cases, some have tried to adapt to the country by learning Spanish and searching for jobs. And in news from the world of science and tech. Barcelona is gearing up for a major wireless technology trade fair, Mobile World Congress, next week. But global uncertainty, the semiconductor shortage and the Ukraine ongoing crisis look set to overshadow it.
The mobile industry is hoping that the Mobile World Congress will be a beginning of a return to in-person gatherings after 2 years of pandemic-related disruption. Up to 60,000 physical visitors are expected at the 4-day hybrid in-person or online gathering. Over 1,500 exhibitors are registered. They hope that the Mobile World Congress could be a major milestone in getting tech events back on track after pandemic. Visitors need proof of COVID-19 vaccination, even follow a cough etiquette of coughing or sneezing into their bent elbow. Industry giants Samsung, Ericsson, Nokia and Huawei are expected to attend. Sony and Lenovo are not expected this year, while Apple rarely attends. Many tech and telecom companies set up elaborate pavilions to unveil the latest mobile devices. Several firms are also expected to show off new 5G handsets that could continue their journey to lower price points. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And moving on, ordinary families are grappling with the high cost of prescription drugs in America. The situation has become all the more acute with overall inflation hitting a 4-decade high.
1 in 4 Americans who take prescription drugs are struggling to afford them. Nearly 30% patients are skipping doses of essential drugs they have to take. Americans pay 2 to 3 times more for prescription drug than any developed nation in the world.
The U.S. has almost a religious commitment to the free market. And decade after decade, people say, well, if there's just competition and if we just let the invisible hand of the market, it will drive down prices. It hasn't done that for 40 years.
The pharmaceutical industry claims the high prices are needed to fund research and development in which America has an edge. But experts say such assertions hide the truth. In reality, most spending is on marketing and advertising. Lowering drug cost has been a popular campaign promise for decades in US, but clearly much needs to be done on it. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
An action from the world of sports now. In a much-anticipated rematch of their 2022 Australian Open final, 5th seed Rafael Nadal took out the new number world Daniel Medvedev in the Mexican Open semi-finals. Nadal came out on top again with 6-3, 6-3 scoreline, hiding the drama that unfolded over the course of 2 hours. After a dominant opening set, the Spaniard saved 11 break points across 2 service games to hang onto an early lead in the second. With the win, Nadal improves to 14-0 on the season, extending his career best start. Nadal's win over Medvedev sets up a final clash with British number 1 and 6th seed Cameron Norrie. Norrie won in straight sets 6-4, 6-4 in an hour and 18 minutes. A wrist injury ruled out Ruturaj Gaikwad for the last T20 matches against Sri Lanka. Mayank Agarwal has been named as the replacement for Gaikwad. According to a BCCI press release, Ruturaj had complained of pain in his right wrist ahead of the first T20 in Lucknow, played on Thursday, and was examined by the BCCI medical team. An MRI scan was later conducted, followed by a specialist consultation. Ruturaj now heads to the National Cricket Academy in Bengaluru for further management of his injury. Legendary Indian cricketer Sunil Gavaskar feels that Virat Kohli is the ideal person to bat at number 3 for India in Test, as Cheteshwar Pujara has been dropped for the upcoming series against Sri Lanka. Gavaskar said the best batsman of team bats at number 3, as did Ricky Ponting for Australia a few years back. Senior batters Pujara and Rahane were axed from the team squad after underwhelming performances in the past few series. And former junior world champion Nikhat Zareen and Neetu stormed into the finals of the 73rd Stranza Memorial Boxing Tournament in Sofia, Bulgaria, after notching up brilliant victories in the last 4 stages. Neetu pummeled her Ukrainian rival Hana Okota, who threw in the towel at the end of the second round. The 25-year-old Zareen had won a gold medal in the 2019 edition of the tournament. And before we sign off, a relook at the headlines now. Russia attacks Ukraine with cruise missiles. President Zelensky refuses to leave Ukraine. Air India plane leaves Bucharest with 250 Indians. Indian embassy in Ukraine advises Indians not to head to border without informing. Cabinet meeting decides 1,600 crore rupees will be spent on Ayushman Bharat digital mission. E-auction window for coal companies also approved. Government committed to providing treatment facilities at block level through modern technology, says Prime Minister. And 5th phase voting in Uttar Pradesh tomorrow. Campaigning ends for the first round of elections in Manipur. And that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.